I was half awake when the phone started vibrating across my nightstand, skittering against the wood like it was trying to escape. The screen glow carved a rectangle of pale light into the darkness of my bedroom, and for a few seconds I just stared at it, trying to remember what continent I was even on. "Hayes, pick up." The voice came from the speaker before I even accepted the call. Only one person in my life had override access like that. "Yeah," I said, my throat dry. "This is Dr. Mason Hayes." "Not on a secure line," the voice replied. "Get dressed. Car will be outside in 10 minutes. Bring your badge, not your conscience." The call ended. It took me a second to place him. Director Cole, NASA. Last time I'd seen him in person, he was standing at the back of a conference room while my career burned itself down on a giant projector screen. I swung my legs out of bed and sat there for a breath, the lingering fog of sleep mixing with something colder. Cole calling me at 3 in the morning was not a job offer. It was a summons. My apartment looked even smaller in the half-light. A futon, a table stacked with unpaid bills, a bookshelf sagging under the weight of geology texts and worn paperbacks about the Apollo program. That part of me had never died, even when they pushed me out. I'd grown up on black and white footage of Saturn V launches, convinced I'd missed the golden age of exploration by a few decades. Then they resurrected the dream, not with flags and public broadcasts, but with non-disclosure agreements and budget lines that vanished between committee hearings. I pulled on jeans, a sweatshirt, and the one decent jacket I owned, the one that still smelled faintly of jet fuel, no matter how many times I washed it. My NASA badge glinted from the hook by the door, an old habit I'd never broken. I clipped it to my belt without thinking. The ride downstairs felt too long. The stairwell hummed with the distant vibration of the building's boiler. Outside, the city was quiet, streetlights stretching out in empty rows. A black sedan idled by the curb, windows tinted dark enough to reflect my own tired face back at me. The driver stepped out as I approached. No introductions, just a nod toward the rear door. I slid in without argument. Director Cole was waiting inside. He looked older than I remembered, the lines around his eyes deeper, his hair more grey than brown. The suit was the same though, charcoal and immaculate, like he slept in a dry cleaner's bag. His gaze swept over me with the clinical efficiency of a surgeon evaluating a bad case. "Dr. Hayes," he said, "appreciate the prompt response." "I wasn't aware you still had my number," I replied. "We keep records of our mistakes." I forced a tight smile. Glad to be remembered. The car pulled away from the curb, gliding through the empty streets with practiced ease. For a few seconds, there was only the quiet rumble of the engine and the soft whisper of tires against asphalt. "You've been consulting privately," Cole said. "Oil, mining, seismic analysis. Wasting your talents, but profitable, I assume." "Pays the rent," I said. "And the bar tab." He ignored that. "Remind me of your dissertation." "You signed the funding approvals," I said. "You know it." "I want to hear you say it." I exhaled. "An integrated model of early lunar formation and impact stratigraphy. Specifically, the geochemical signatures and structural patterns left by the Theia impact event." "Theia," Cole repeated, like he was testing the word on his tongue. "The hypothetical protoplanet that hit early Earth and formed the moon." "Not hypothetical," I said without thinking. "The evidence is overwhelming." He glanced at me then, the faintest hint of a smile. "You always did hate the word hypothetical." "Good. You'll need that certainty." "Need it for what exactly?" Cole reached into a leather folder and pulled out a single photograph printed on glossy paper. That alone told me how serious this was. Nobody printed anything anymore unless they needed to control where it went. He held it out. The image showed a lunar surface, no mistaking that. Fine grey regolith, jagged rocks, the sharp, unforgiving shadows of a place without atmosphere. But it was what sat in the center of the frame that made my mouth go dry. It looked like a sphere, or it had been once. Now it was fractured. Segments split like an egg cracked open too slowly. The exposed interior was a maze of ridges and smooth planes, patterns that looked just organized enough to be wrong. The surface was not rock, not any rock I knew. It had a metallic sheen, but not like aluminum or titanium. It reminded me of obsidian that had learned how to conduct electricity. There were scale markers in the shot. The thing was enormous. "How big?" I asked. "Approximately 80 meters in diameter," Cole said. "Current estimate." My mind raced. Where? Mare Insularum, edge of a crater that did not exist a month ago. "Moonquakes don't make new craters," I said. "We're aware," he replied. "That's why you're here." I stared at the photo again. The fractured sphere sat partially embedded, as if the regolith had flowed away from it rather than it crashing in from above. "Impact structure," I said, more to myself than to him. "But there's no ejector pattern, no ray system. This looks placed." Cole watched me with that unblinking bureaucratic calm. "You wrote a paper 5 years ago about the possibility that early impact periods left behind macrostructures beneath the regolith." I frowned. "That paper got my clearance revoked." "It got your clearance reviewed," he corrected. "Your conclusions were premature for public discussion." "You mean they made people nervous?" "Sometimes nerves are justified," he said. "Especially when they brush up against classified programs." The car had stopped moving. I had been so absorbed in the photograph I hadn't noticed. I glanced out the window and saw the security gate, the dull outline of the Johnson Space Center beyond, floodlights turning concrete and glass into a muted monochrome. "You brought me back here for a crater?" I asked. "No," Cole said. "We brought you back for a mission." The word hit me harder than I expected. I turned back to him. "NASA doesn't do manned lunar missions anymore. Not like that. We barely got Artemis moving." "This isn't Artemis," he said, "and it's not NASA alone. There are partners involved, funding and hardware from places that prefer not to be named." "Private?" I asked. "Military?" "Both." He tucked the photograph back into its folder as if covering a wound. "We resurrected a designation," he said, "for internal use only. You're familiar with the Apollo catalogue." I felt my heartbeat spike. 17 was the last, I said automatically. 18, 19, and 20 were cancelled. "Officially," Cole said. "But the legacy hardware remained. You've read the conspiracy forums, I'm sure. Secret Apollo missions, Soviet landings nobody admitted to, artifacts on the moon. 99% nonsense. And the 1%? The 1% we handle very quietly," he said. "We're reactivating a designation, Apollo 23. I stared at him. "You're joking." "For the sake of your sanity, no, I am not," Cole said. "And we want you on it. Lead geologist, impact stratigraphy specialist. The artifact in that photo is older than the crater that revealed it. Much older." "Older how?" I asked. He looked at me like he was about to drop something heavy directly onto my spine. "Preliminary radiometric analysis based on surface degradation, micrometeorite scarring, and solar exposure patterns suggests an age of approximately 4.6 billion years, Cole said, give or take a margin. I laughed. It came out thin and brittle. "That's impossible. That's older than the moon itself." "Exactly," he said. "So, Dr. Hayes, will you come back into the fold and help us understand how there is something on the moon that predates the moon?" The hallway lights outside the car cast pale bands across his face, carving his features into sharp, artificial angles. For a second, I saw the 17-year-old version of myself reflected in the glass. The kid who watched grainy footage of Apollo astronauts bouncing across the lunar surface, and promised himself that one day he would stand where they stood. I had imagined a lot of things back then. I had never imagined being asked to investigate something that might have existed before any of it. I swallowed. If I say no, he spread his hands slightly. Then you go back to consulting about shale composition and drilling angles, and someone else gets to be first to step up to that sphere. But you and I both know you're not going to say no. He was right, and we both knew it. Fine, I said. I'm in. Good, Cole replied. Then from this moment forward, Apollo 23 is the only thing that exists in your life. And just so we are clear, his gaze hardened. Whatever built that artifact was present at the moment. Earth became what it is. If it left anything behind other than that shell, we need to know. Before it reminds us that we are not the architects of our own world. The door clicked open. Cold air spilled in from the secure lot outside, carrying the faint scent of fuel and concrete. I stepped out, feeling like I was walking into someone else's memories. Mine were about to be rewritten. They took my phone, my watch, even the little brass keychain my sister gave me years ago, the one shaped like a tiny crescent moon. The security officer dropped everything into a grey bin and sealed it with a strip of tamper-proof tape, the kind that tore like dry skin when mishandled. No electronics, Cole had said. No personal items. Nothing that could record, transmit, or track. Apollo 23 wasn't a mission. It was an erasure. I stood there in socked feet on a cold concrete floor, while a biometric scanner swept blue light across my body. The air smelled faintly of ozone, and recycled ventilation systems pushed far beyond what they were designed for. The machine beeped once, apparently satisfied that I wasn't carrying contraband or harboring unauthorized cybernetic implants, which I didn't even know was something they screened for. "Clear," the technician said, waving me forward. "Director Cole's waiting in briefing room C." I followed the corridor, my footsteps echoing in a space that felt too empty, too polished. NASA's public-facing areas always had life. Posters of spacecraft, framed portraits of astronauts, engineers clustered around laptops arguing over data. But this wing was something else. It felt like a hospital built for secrets. When I entered briefing room C, the first thing I noticed wasn't the holographic display hovering above the table, or the giant mission timeline plastered across the wall. It was the people. 3 of them sat around the table, each with a badge clipped to their chest, none of them bearing NASA's familiar insignia. The logos were unfamiliar, geometric shapes in stark colors with no text, agencies that didn't want names. Cole stood at the head of the table. "Dr. Hayes," he said, "meet the rest of your team." A woman with sharp cheekbones and eyes the color of dark steel rose first. She extended a hand. "Commander Lyra Voss," she said. Her grip was firm, military firm. "I'll be piloting the Orion capsule for Apollo 23. Former Air Force, former other things." "Other things?" I asked. She smiled without humor. "Things that don't exist on paper." Next was a tall man with a shaved head and arms corded with muscle, the kind earned from carrying things heavier than textbooks. "Sergeant Kenji Rourke," he said. "Security specialist, EVA operations. If something moves on the moon, I take care of it." "Moves?" I repeated. "There's nothing on the moon that moves." "Let's hope that stays true," Rourke said. The last person was a man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and a gentle, almost apologetic expression. "Dr. Adrian Malik," he said. "Astrobiologist." That made me pause. "Astrobiologist, for a geological artifact." Malik's smile flickered. "The classification isn't final." Cole clapped his hands once, drawing our attention. "Please, sit. We don't have much time." We took our seats. The holographic display above the table flickered, resolving into the fractured sphere I'd seen earlier, but now in full rotation, illuminated by simulated sunlight. It turned slowly, showing its jagged seams, its hollowed interior, and the nearly iridescent surface patterns along its ridges. This, Cole began, is Object A23 Theta, discovered 17 days ago after a seismic event exposed a previously buried structure in Mare Insularum. The crater that revealed it was not created by impact mechanics. No ejector, no shock fractures. It manifested after a sudden collapse in subsurface regolith. Meaning it was there all along, I said. Precisely, Cole replied. Malik tapped a control and the sphere zoomed in. Here, on the interior surface, microchannels, lattice structures, patterns reminiscent of circuitry, but unlike any conductive system we've ever analyzed. Rourke snorted. Looks like a giant mechanical egg to me. In a way, Malik said quietly, that may be accurate. I leaned forward. What's the current radiation reading inside the cavity? Minimal, Malik said. No harmful emissions. But there's more. When the lunar rover's camera arm extended into the interior, the artifact produced a pulse. What kind of pulse? I asked. Acoustic. At least, partially acoustic. Malik hesitated. It was also electromagnetic and gravitational. I blinked. Gravitational pulses require massive energy expenditure. Exactly, he said. Cole interjected. Since that pulse, we've detected shifts. Subtle but measurable. Internal segments rearranging. Surface temperature fluctuations. It's not dead, Dr. Hayes. It's dormant. And something about our presence woke it up. The room fell silent. Voss leaned back in her chair. So, Director, let's get to the part you haven't said yet. Why us? And why a manned mission? You could send unmanned probes. Cole's expression tightened. Because whatever this thing is, it's reacting to humans specifically. Automated systems get no response. Rovers get no response. But when the crew of the lunar drone mission stood within 20 meters of the site, the artifact emitted the pulse. We need human observers. Human proximity. And what's the risk assessment? Voss asked. Cole hesitated just long enough for the room to feel colder. Unknown. I ran a hand through my hair. You're sending us to walk up to a 4.6-billion-year-old machine that predates our entire planet, and the official risk category is unknown. Yes. Malik shifted nervously. We believe Object A23 Theta may have witnessed the Theia collision. I stared at him. That's impossible. It would have to predate the moon, he said. Yes, exactly. He tapped the holographic controls again. The sphere shrank, replaced by a simulated reconstruction of the early solar system, floating dust, forming planets, the great swirling disk. This model, Malik said, shows the earliest epoch after solar ignition, Theia, a Mars-sized protoplanet, colliding with early Earth. From that collision, the debris disk that formed the moon. The simulation unfolded in slow motion. The impact, the firestorm, the molten Earth devouring the smaller body, the debris swirling outward in incandescent arcs. It was chaos, Malik continued. Violent, impossible to survive. But what if something didn't need to? What if something was designed to observe, record, or trigger? Rourke groaned. You're telling me this thing helped smash a planet into us? Malik raised his palms. I'm saying it's one possible interpretation. The artifact's composition is unlike any known extraterrestrial or terrestrial material. Its internal geometry suggests purpose, and its age corresponds exactly with the early collision window. A sick feeling coiled in my stomach. I'd spent my career studying the Theia event, but I'd never once considered the idea of intention. Cole pressed a new control. The holographic image changed again, this time showing the mission profile. The Orion capsule launches in 72 hours. Direct lunar injection. Voss pilots. Hayes and Malik handle internal site analysis. Rourke handles perimeter and EVA security. Security from what? Rourke asked. Contingencies, Cole said. We don't know what a device built before Earth was fully formed is capable of. Voss exhaled slowly. What's our directive once we reach the site? Cole locked eyes with her. Simple. You enter the artifact. The room went silent again. Enter? I repeated. You mean go inside that thing? Yes, he said. Whatever triggered the pulse is inside, and we need to know what it is before it completes whatever it began. I rubbed my face, trying to ground myself. Director, if this device is truly from the era of planetary formation, it means a civilization, whatever built it, was present in the primordial solar system, tens of millions of years before Earth could even cool. And that's why you're going, Cole said. Because if something that old built a machine that survived the cataclysm that formed the moon, it may have also prepared for its own return. Voss leaned forward. Director, be honest. What's the real fear here? Cole answered without hesitation. That the artifact isn't waking up. He paused. But rather, that it's calling something back. No one spoke after that. When the briefing ended, I remained seated, staring at the hologram of the sphere as it turned slowly in the air, its fractured surface catching invisible light. 4.6 billion years. Before oceans, before continents, before life. A machine waiting under the moon. Waiting for us. Hayes, Voss called from the doorway. You coming? I stood, my legs suddenly heavier than they should have been. Yeah, I said quietly. I'm coming. As we stepped into the hallway, a thought hit me like a falling stone. What if we weren't the first humans to approach that artifact? What if we were just the first ones they intended to send back? They moved us to Habitat Wing K, a part of Johnson Space Center I didn't even know existed. No windows, no clocks. No sense of time except the beat of my own pulse and the distant hum of ventilation units swallowing their own echoes. Days blurred together. 72 hours until launch became 48, then 24, and somewhere in that narrowing space I realized something unsettling. I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of understanding. The training was technically standard procedure, pressure suit fitting, capsule ingress practice, surface drill reviews, but something about it all felt accelerated, condensed, like they were checking boxes to claim due diligence, not because they believed we'd survive long enough for the training to matter. Commander Voss handled it flawlessly, of course. She moved like someone who had been built for spaceflight, not trained for it. Every step precise, every decision immediate. She carried herself with the quiet authority of someone who had led missions that would never appear on any resume. Rourke, on the other hand, trained the way soldiers prepare for urban warfare. He practiced his movements obsessively, clamping down his suit seals, drawing and stowing his tether spike, adjusting the locking harness on his EVA boots like he expected hostile contact the moment his feet hit regolith. Malik was the opposite. Nervous hands, hesitant steps. Brilliant mind, but the kind of man who belonged behind microscopes, not climbing into rockets. I liked him, though. There was a gentleness in the way he spoke about the artifact, as if it were a wounded animal instead of a possible instrument of primordial engineering. Me, I floated somewhere in between. I'd spent years imagining myself on the moon, but never imagined I'd be going there to crawl inside something that predated the sun's maturity. On our second night in containment, I found Rourke sitting alone in the gym area, rolling a lacrosse ball under his foot to relieve tension. Sweat darkened his shirt. His breathing was slow, controlled. "Can't sleep?" I asked. He didn't look up. "You?" "Same." He nodded, still working the ball. "You read the psychological protocols they made us sign?" "Yeah," I said. "The ones about intrusions, temporal displacement sensations, and auditory illusions." He finally met my eyes. That section, the illusions part, they warned us we might hear things inside the artifact. "Atmospheric conduction doesn't work on the moon," I said. "You can't hear sound in a vacuum." Rourke leaned back on the bench, looking up at the ceiling like he was checking it for cracks. They weren't talking about sound in the physical sense. I waited. He lowered his voice. They think the artifact might interface with human neural patterns, like it's testing us, or reading us. The words crawled under my skin. You think that's why it pulsed? I asked. I think, Rourke said slowly, that thing didn't wake up when humans approached. I think it recognized us. He stood, tossed the lacrosse ball into a bin, and headed toward the showers without another word. I didn't sleep at all after that. Launch day came without ceremony. No press, no families waving from behind cordons, no cheering crowds. Just the four of us standing in a prep bay that smelled faintly of coolant and metal polish. The Orion capsule sat suspended above us, its silver hull gleaming under the fluorescent lights. I'd seen hundreds of photos of Orion modules over the years, but seeing one up close, knowing it was about to carry me 384,000 kilometers away, hit differently. It wasn't awe, it was inevitability. You ready? Voss asked as she passed me my suit's torso shell. Define ready, I said. She cracked a thin smile, alive and upright. Barely. Suit up took 40 minutes. The metal rings around my wrists and neck sealed with a satisfying click. The helmet locking down over me like a second skull. Every breath echoed inside the dome. Every pulse thumped in my ears. For a moment, the world became a tiny glass bubble strapped to my shoulders. We walked single file down the long tunnel toward the launch gantry. The hallway vibrated under our boots, some distant turbine powering up. My chest tightened as we stepped into the elevator that carried us up the tower. I could see the rocket now through narrow slits in the wall as we rose, white, immense, steaming, surrounded by scaffolding like a beast being restrained. At the top, a technician checked our suits one last time. Voss entered the capsule first, sliding into the left-hand seat. Rourke strapped into the right. Malik settled behind us. I took the center. The moment my harness clicked, the reality sank in like a stone falling through water. This wasn't practice. This wasn't theory. We were really leaving Earth. Mission control crackled through the helmet speakers. Apollo 23, confirm comms, Voss responded. Comms nominal. Telemetry stable, Malik added. Rourke thumped his chest once. Life support green, I swallowed. Dr. Hayes, confirming pressure integrity. Copy all, the controller said. T-3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Until we left the world where humanity evolved. Where life began. Where every ancestor I had ever belonged to lived and died without knowing what waited beneath the moon's surface. I closed my eyes and spoke softly into my mic. Why bring back the Apollo designation? Cole's voice answered from mission control. Because this mission is not a continuation. It's a reckoning. The timer hit 0. The engines ignited. The force slammed me back into my seat, a fist of acceleration crushing my ribs. My breath flattened in my chest. My teeth rattled. The capsule shook violently, a metal animal clawing its way into the sky. My vision tunneled until all I could see was the numbers climbing on the HUD projected inside my visor. Altitude, climbing. Velocity, climbing. Earth, falling away beneath us. When the boosters separated, the violent roar dropped into a dull, all-consuming rumble, the sound vibration passing through the suit, not the air. Moments later, the final stage kicked in, smoother now, lifting us into the black. And then, suddenly, silence. Weightlessness broke across us like a soft wave. A pen floated away from Malik's hand. A small strip of Velcro peeled itself off my thigh pad and drifted in front of me like a tiny ghost. We had left Earth. Stage separation complete, Voss said. We're officially off the map. Rourke looked out the small side window. Never gets old. It was my first time seeing our planet from space. I'd seen the photos, of course, seen videos, documentaries, simulated models. But none of it captured the fragility of it. This glowing blue sphere suspended in nothingness. wrapped in a thin, shimmering layer of atmosphere, like it was too delicate to survive the void. "It's beautiful," I whispered. Malik's voice cracked slightly. "It is. God help us if it's not enough." We completed the burn for trans-lunar injection. The capsule shuddered, then locked into the trajectory that would carry us out of Earth's gravity well. Ahead, the moon hung like a pale, silent coin, waiting. Voss dimmed the cabin lights. "Crew, settle in. 3 days to arrival." Rourke stretched, or tried to stretch, as much as the harness allowed. 3 days in here, then we hop onto the surface and go knock on the door of a 4 billion-year-old alien machine. Easy. His attempt at humor didn't land. Not this time. I looked at the moon, at its faint grey scars, and felt something shift inside me. For the first time since this mission began, I understood what Cole meant. This wasn't exploration. This was a confrontation. Something ancient had been waiting underneath that fractured crater, and now, for reasons none of us yet understood, it wanted us back. 3 days in a capsule the size of a walk-in closet changes the way your thoughts behave. They stretch, they twist, they wrap around themselves like vines hungry for something solid. There's nowhere to run from them, nowhere to hide. Just you, your heartbeat, and the growing certainty that whatever waits at the end of the trajectory is older and smarter than anything mankind has ever put a name to. We drifted in translunar space, strapped into harnesses, floating in a fragile shell of aluminum and composite material. The moon grew larger through the viewport every hour, slowly at first, then with a steady, unnerving pace, like it was leaning in to study us. The first night, if you can call a cycle with no sunrises or sunsets a night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the fractured sphere rotating in the hologram, the patterns etched across its surface, the knowledge that its age matched the earliest epoch of the solar nebula. 4.6 billion years. Older than dirt, older than oceans, older than the magnetic field that protects our species from being cooked alive by solar radiation, older than the moon. The implications spun in my head like a centrifuge. Who built it? Why put it on the moon? How did it survive the cataclysm that formed our planet? Questions with no answers, just hypotheses that felt increasingly small. At some point, hours in or minutes, I couldn't tell, Malik shifted beside me, the soft rustling of his harness breaking the quiet. "You awake?" he whispered. "So are you," I replied. He released a small laugh, the kind someone makes when humor is all they have left. "Voss is out. Rourke too." I glanced at them. Voss's breathing was steady. Rourke floated in the darkness like a statue, arms tucked against his chest, his jaw set even while asleep. "What's on your mind?" I asked. Malik hesitated. "Everything." He pushed gently against the restraint, floating a bit closer to the window. The faint glow of earthlight illuminated the side of his face. "You ever think about how young we are?" he said. "Humans?" "Life," Malik corrected. "All life on Earth. 4 billion years since bacteria, only a few million since hominins, 100,000 since anatomically modern humans, 10,000 since civilization." He exhaled slowly, fogging the inside of his visor. "We're children, infants, barely sentient animals who learned to stack rocks into pyramids." I wasn't sure where he was going. And something was building machines before Earth had even cooled. That landed with a weight I wasn't ready for. I tried to settle into the harness, but the straps felt tighter now, like the capsule was shrinking by degrees. "You think the artifact is a message?" I asked. "I think," Malik said softly, "it's a record, maybe a witness, maybe something worse." He glanced back at me. "You've read the formation, papers. You know how violent the Theia event was." I nodded. "A molten hellscape. Oceans boiled. Atmosphere stripped. A collision energetic enough to melt half of Earth. Right, he said. So if something placed that artifact before the collision, what does that say about them? I swallowed. That they survived it. Exactly. A long silence filled the capsule. Something about that idea lodged itself behind my ribs, a splinter of dread. Surviving an interplanetary collision wasn't just impressive. It suggested scale, technology, power, intent. And if they survived that, what else could they survive? Malik drifted back into his seat, his face pale. I could tell he was regretting saying it aloud. We didn't talk much after that. Day 2 passed like the slow unspooling of thread. Voss kept us busy with navigation updates, telemetry checks, procedural reviews, anything to keep us from thinking too hard. She'd been on missions no one would ever hear about, but even she couldn't fake the tension tightening her shoulders. During a quiet moment, she caught me staring at the moon. "You ever been this close before?" she asked. I shook my head. Closest I got was the training simulator in Tucson. She smiled faintly. Simulators lie. Space doesn't. The moon took up nearly half the viewport now, its surface etched with shadowed craters. One of those small circles, just one among thousands, held the thing we were being sent to wake up. "What do you think we'll find?" I asked her. Voss didn't answer right away. Instead, she studied the grey landscape like she was trying to decode a language written in rock and vacuum. "I've flown classified reconnaissance," she said finally. "Seen things deep in the Pacific. Saw a black triangle over Alaska once that wasn't one of ours. Watched a radar ghost follow my wing for nearly 100 miles. She turned back to me. But this is different. This isn't a secret craft, or an enemy technology. This is something that predates the concept of enemies." She faced forward again. "I think we'll find the truth, and I don't think we're ready for it." Her words hung in the air long after she stopped speaking. Day 3 began with a soft chime through the cabin. "Approaching lunar sphere of influence," Voss announced. The gravitational shift was subtle, barely noticeable, but I felt it in my stomach like a hand gently tugging us forward. Rourke tightened his harness. "This is where things get interesting." Malik floated beside me, pale and restless. I wished I could say something that would ground him, but I couldn't ground myself. Voss guided the capsule into lunar orbit with the precision of someone who had done this before. The moon's surface rolled beneath us, vast plains, rugged highlands, dark maria shaped by ancient lava flows, and then, appearing like a scar across the grey expanse, I saw it. "Mare Insularum," I whispered. The crater containing the artifact was a dark circle on the edge of a sprawling mare. At first glance, it looked like any other impact site: smooth basin, raised rim, shadowed interior. But then the light shifted, and I saw the fractured sphere catching the sunlight. It gleamed. Even from orbit, I could see the unnatural symmetry, the smooth curvature broken only by the jagged rupture across its side. It looked like a colossal pearl cracked open by a cosmic blow. Malik pressed his helmet against the window. "My God," Rourke muttered. "Looks even bigger from up here." Voss didn't say anything at first. She just tracked the sphere with her eyes, her jaw tightening. Then softly she said, "That is not supposed to be here." We completed our first orbit, then our second. On the third pass, Voss fired the descent engines. "Buckle in," she said. "We're going down." The capsule shuddered as it dipped into day orbit. The lunar surface rushed upward, a landscape of shadow and sunlit ridges, rugged and merciless. Rourke checked his restraint one last time. "Hayes," he said, "when we step onto that surface, tell me something." "What?" I asked. He stared straight ahead. "You really think that thing is a machine?" I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell him no. that it was just a strange geological anomaly, that it was rock, metal, something explainable. Instead, I said the only honest thing I could. "I think it's waiting," Rourke grunted. "Yeah, that's what I was afraid of." The moon filled my vision. The crater grew larger. The artifact gleamed. We were minutes away from landing on a surface untouched for billions of years, except by something that shouldn't exist, something built by hands we cannot imagine, something that might not be finished. We hit lunar surface harder than I expected. A jolt. A thud transmitted through the hull. Dust rose in a plume outside the window, grey, silent, unbothered by air, blooming like a ghost. "We're down," Voss said. "Apollo 23 has landed." A chill ran through me. No broadcast, no cheers, no history books waiting to record the moment. Just 4 breathing hearts and a machine older than Earth waiting in the crater ahead. "Suit up," Voss said. "We walk in 15. My throat tightened. We weren't just stepping onto the moon. We were stepping into the oldest secret in the solar system, and it was about to open its eyes. 15 minutes sounds like a small eternity when you're preparing to step onto another world. But inside the capsule, it passed in a blur of checklists, pressure seals, and the rhythmic sound of my breath echoing inside my helmet. Each inhale felt shallow. Each exhale fogged the visor for half a second. My heartbeat drummed in my ears like it was trying to get out. Commander Voss was the first to cycle through the airlock. The hatch hissed open, revealing the lunar surface, grey dust, jagged rock, and the dark crater rim rising in the distance like the lip of a giant bowl. The artifact sat somewhere beyond that ridge, hidden for the moment, but its presence felt like a gravitational force pressing against my spine. Rourke went next. His boots made contact with the surface, kicking up a small spray of dust that drifted slowly, falling in the moon's lazy gravity. Malik followed, hesitating only once as he swung his legs out of the hatch. Then it was my turn. I lowered myself through the hatch, boots meeting the surface with a muted thump transmitted through the suit's structure. A puff of regolith rose, sparkling faintly in the unfiltered sunlight. The moment my foot settled, a wave of disbelief washed over me. I was standing on the moon, not in a simulator, not in a museum, not behind glass. Here, alive, breathing recycled oxygen, staring at a horizon carved in ancient stone. "Hayes," Voss said, her voice calm but firm through the comms. "Status." I swallowed hard. "Dr. Mason Hayes, on surface, pressure stable, mobility nominal." Malik let out a small, shaky laugh. "I can't believe we're here." Rourke chuckled. "Believe it, and stay sharp." The lunar silence was profound. No atmosphere to carry sound. No wind. No rustle of air. Only the gentle hum of my life support system and the distant crunch of boots on dust. Voss pointed toward the valley ahead. "The crater is 1 kilometer east. Form up and move." We walked in slow, bounding strides. Moongate. Every step kicked up a plume that drifted behind us like ghostly fingerprints. My suit's internal temperature regulators worked overtime, balancing the harsh sunlight and the cold shadows that cut the landscape into alternating bands. "Telemetry clean," Mission Control said faintly through the static. "We're receiving you. Proceed." I scanned the horizon, trying to orient myself. The crater rim rose higher now, and with each step, we approached the point where the artifact would come into view. Rourke's voice crackled. "You seeing this?" At first, I didn't know what he meant. Then I noticed it. The dust. A fine layer of regolith had drifted down the slope of the crater, forming streaks and channels as if something, or someone, had displaced it recently. "There's no wind here," Malik whispered. "This pattern, it's too clean." "Could be seismic," I offered, though the explanation felt weak. "No," Malik said. "Seismic displacement doesn't form linear flows like this." Rourke knelt, scooping some into his gloved hand. feels wrong. Everything's wrong up here, Voss said, but I heard the tremor in her voice. We climbed the final rise, and then we saw it. The artifact dominated the crater floor like a moon within the moon. The fractured sphere gleamed under the harsh sunlight, its metallic surface reflecting sharp glints back at us. The break across its hull stretched from top to base, a jagged wound wide enough to swallow a shuttle whole. Even from a distance I felt it, an unsettling tug, like a pressure against my chest, as if the air inside my suit had thickened. "It's massive," Malik breathed. It was. Photos hadn't done it justice. It dwarfed the human eye. It dwarfed the mind. "It's waiting," Rourke said again, repeating the words I'd said in orbit. We began our descent into the crater. The slope was treacherous, the loose regolith sliding beneath our boots at every step. My heart hammered. One fall could rip a suit. One tear could end a life. The closer we got, the more details emerged. Etched lines, grooves, ridges intertwined like veins across the sphere's surface. Not random, not natural, a pattern with meaning. "Haze," Voss said. "Your read." I swallowed. "This is advanced material engineering, beyond anything humans have produced. No welds, no joints. The structure appears grown, not constructed." "Grown?" Rourke repeated. "Like biology?" "No," I said. "More like crystallization, but controlled, intentional." Malik's voice trembled. "It's beautiful." I didn't say anything. Beauty was not the word I'd use. We reached the base of the sphere. Up close, its presence was overwhelming. The hull towered above us, curving with an elegance that made my skin crawl. I could see into the fracture now, the interior illuminated by the sunlight. Something inside glowed faintly. "Commander," I said, "I'm picking up thermal anomalies." Voss checked her wrist display. "Confirmed. Surface temperature rising 0.03 degrees. "Could be sun exposure," I offered weakly. "No," Malik said instantly. "The heating pattern is internal. It's not absorbing sunlight, it's generating it." A pressure pulse hit us, not violently, but enough to make my stomach twist. It passed through the ground, through our boots, through the suit. "What the hell was that?" Rourke barked. "Seismic?" I said. Malik's helmet shook. "No, not seismic. That came from the artifact." We approached the opening. The interior was a cavern of smooth, arching structures. Ridges spiraled inward like a giant metallic nautilus shell. The patterns seemed to move in my peripheral vision, even though I knew that was impossible. It wasn't dark inside. Instead, a faint bluish luminescence seeped from the inner walls like moonlight, trapped in metal. "Record everything," Voss said. "Haze, Malik, you're on point." My legs felt numb as I stepped toward the threshold. The line between outside and inside wasn't clear. There was no lip, no step, no entrance. Just a seamless continuation of surface into a hollowed interior. I raised my glove and touched the hull. A shock tore through me. Not painful, but overwhelming, like the instant before a lightning strike. My vision flashed white. My ears rang. For a heartbeat, I felt weightless, suspended between now and something primordial. Then it was gone. "Haze!" Voss snapped. "Status!" I sucked in a breath. I'm fine." "What happened?" Rourke demanded. I stared at the surface under my hand. The metal was warm now, warmer than it should be. "It reacted," I said softly, to me. "Why you?" Malik asked. I didn't have an answer. We moved deeper into the artifact. The floor felt strangely soft beneath our boots, deforming slightly, like foam with metallic rigidity. Every step sent faint ripples through the surface. "It's alive," Malik whispered without meaning to. "It's a machine," Voss corrected sharply. But her voice betrayed doubt. As we walked, the interior structures shifted. Slowly, subtly, as if adjusting, accommodating, anticipating us. Rourke reached for his equipment pack. "I don't like this." "No one likes this," I said. The luminescence grew stronger. The ridges thickened. The passage widened, leading deeper into what could only be described as a chamber. "There," Malik said. "The pulse origin." At the center of the chamber stood something I hadn't seen in the photos. A column. Thin, tapered, shimmering with faint blue light. It rose from the floor and connected to the ceiling, perfectly aligned. I scanned it. Material unknown. Conductive. Vibrational frequency. Low. Very low. "It's humming," Malik said. "You can't hear in a..." Rourke began. "No," Malik said. "Not sound. Not in the air. In our suits. Through the structure." We all stood in silence. The hum was there. A soft vibration at the base of my skull. Like a memory of sound rather than sound itself. Voss spoke quietly. "What is it, Hayes?" I stepped closer, my gloved hand trembling. "A power core. A transmitter. Maybe..." A flash of light erupted from the column, engulfing the chamber in a piercing blue glow. Malik screamed. Rourke swore. Voss shouted orders I couldn't process. The floor rippled beneath us. The hum deepened. And then, everything went white. When the white light swallowed me, I expected pain. Expected the sensation of my body tearing apart, of synapses overloading, of my mind collapsing under sensory overload. Instead, there was nothing. No sound, no feeling, no weight. Just a vast, cold expanse of white. For an instant, maybe a second, maybe an hour, I hung suspended in a void that felt impossibly old. Then the white receded, not like fading light, but like a curtain being pulled back to reveal what had always been waiting behind it. And suddenly, I wasn't in the artifact anymore. I stood, without a suit, without boots, without breath, on a surface of molten orange rock. Rivers of liquid fire flowed in every direction. Geysers erupted from cracks in the ground. Ash fell like snow in a windless sky. Earth, not as it is, as it was. A newborn planet, still furious with creation. My mind reeled, but the vision held me in place. It wasn't a dream, not a hallucination. It felt too precise, too detailed, too intentional. Something wanted me to see this. A shadow crossed the horizon, massive, dark, fast. I turned instinctively, though I had no body to turn. Through the haze I saw it. A sphere. Not the fractured one in the crater. A perfect one, smooth, whole. Descending through the sky like a second moon. It glowed faintly, its hull shimmering with the same iridescent patterns we'd seen inside the artifact. As it descended, the molten rivers shifted course, drawn toward it like metal filings aligning to a magnet. A voice, no, not a voice. A presence pressed into my skull. Observe. The sphere hovered just above the surface. A beam of pale light descended from its underside, scanning the landscape. The light passed through me as if I were smoke. The ground shuddered. The light intensified. The sky tore. The world shook violently, and from the upper atmosphere, something enormous emerged. Something I recognized only because I had spent my life studying it. A protoplanet. Theia, Mars-sized. Red-brown. Moving faster than physics should allow, it hurtled toward the glowing sphere. Not randomly, not by chance. Guided. The sphere pulsed, and the protoplanet adjusted course like a vessel following a beacon. "No," I whispered, though there was no air, no sound. No, that's impossible." The impact came. The protoplanet struck Earth with a force beyond comprehension. Light engulfed everything. The ground vaporized. Oceans boiled. Mountains melted. The shockwaves split the crust open like an eggshell. The sphere remained intact. Even as molten rock swallowed it, even as the world itself tore open, it sank beneath the forming oceans of magma, disappearing beneath the planetary skin. Then silence. The vision flickered, shifted. The molten world cooled. Landmasses formed. The moon coalesced from the airborne debris, forming its imperfect sphere. Time sped forward, centuries per heartbeat. The Earth became blue. The moon turned grey. Impact craters littered its surface. Dust settled in ancient seas of stone. Then, the artifact, the same sphere from the crater, rising. It emerged from beneath the lunar surface like a forgotten seed pushing through soil. It hovered for a moment, spinning slowly, then lowered itself into the forming regolith. As dust buried it, the artifact dimmed, its surface losing its glow, its patterns fading. Dormant, waiting. The presence returned, colder now. Witness, understand, prepare. The world tore apart again, and the white returned. I gasped. Sound came roaring back, Rourke shouting, Malik sobbing, Voss screaming orders. My visor was fogged completely, my breathing ragged and uneven. The chamber walls pulsed with dim blue light, the column flickering erratically. I was on my hands and knees, gloves pressed into the rippling metallic floor. Haze! Voss grabbed my shoulder, shaking me hard. Talk to me. What happened? I swallowed, trying to force words out. I saw... Malik crawled to my side, his helmet nearly touching mine. His voice trembled. What did it show you? I couldn't answer immediately. My mind was still reeling, pieces of impossible memory trying to fit themselves into the shape of truth. Haze! Voss shouted again. I finally managed. Thea! Rourke froze. Thea! As in the one that... Yes, I whispered. The impact. I saw it. All of it. Malik's eyes widened behind his visor. Through what? A vision? A projection? It wasn't a projection, I said. It wasn't symbolic. It was real, detailed, like I was there. Inside the artifact, Voss said slowly, you witnessed a planetary formation event billions of years old. I nodded weakly. It wanted me to see it. Rourke swore. Wanted? Machines don't want. This one does, I said. It was guiding Thea. The silence that followed felt suffocating, even in vacuum. Voss spoke first. Explain. I forced the words out. The artifact, or something like it, was hovering above the molten earth. It emitted a beam, a signal. Thea wasn't a random impact. It was directed. Malik whispered. Engineered. Yes. Rourke paced, boots thudding against the rippling floor. This is insane. I looked at him. The artifact wasn't just a witness. It was a trigger. The collision that formed the moon wasn't an accident. It was an operation. Voss clenched her jaw. Why? Before I could answer, the chamber pulsed again, this time violently. The column brightened, surging with new energy. Rourke! Voss snapped. Pull back! We're too close! He grabbed Malik and dragged him away. I staggered, trying to retreat, but the floor shifted beneath me like liquid metal. It's activating! Malik shouted. No, I said softly. It's responding. To what? Rourke demanded. My stomach turned as I realized the answer. To us. The column flared, and another pulse of blue light swept the chamber. My suit's systems flickered. The lights dimmed. The floor vibrated beneath us. Commander, I said, we need to get out. Now. Before Voss could respond, the artifact spoke. Not in sound, not in language, in meaning. You have witnessed. You are chosen. You are the return. My blood ran cold. What the hell does that mean? Rourke shouted. But the artifact wasn't finished. The architects are coming. Prepare the cradle. The glow intensified. The chamber rumbled. And then a portion of the wall, smooth, seamless, began to slide open. Behind it, darkness, a tunnel leading deeper into the sphere. A tunnel that had not been there before. It was inviting us in, or calling us deeper, or preparing something we didn't understand. Voss steadied herself. Team, fall back, slowly. Do not turn your back on it. But I couldn't move, because in the darkness beyond the new opening, something moved. Something tall. Something thin. Something watching us with a stillness older than the moon. I froze. And the last thought that entered my mind before the lights cut out was simple. We were not alone in here. Not anymore. The lights died so completely that for a second, I thought I'd gone blind. My visor HUD flickered, sputtered, then rebooted with emergency dimness. The chamber around us glowed faintly from the residual blue scattered across the walls, but the new opening remained a void, a perfect rectangular slice of absence carved into the artifact's interior. And something was in that absence. I couldn't see it clearly, couldn't make out limbs or edges or features. It was motion without shape, form without light, like a shadow cast by a source that didn't exist. My brain strained to interpret it, to force it into something familiar, but it kept slipping away, defying categorization. Rourke, I whispered. You see that? I see nothing, he said, breath tight. Which is worse? Malik whimpered softly through the comms. It's observing us. Voss held her arm across his chest to steady him. No one moves, no one runs. Running triggers pursuit patterns in plenty of species, and I'm not testing whether that applies here. My suit's internal temperature dropped 2 degrees, not because the artifact grew colder. My body did. I felt it in my bones, the way prey feels a predator before it sees it. A deep-rooted ancestral warning flaring in a place older than language. The shadow shifted, a slow, deliberate tilt, like it was leaning forward just enough to acknowledge that it had our full attention. Jesus, Rourke muttered. It knows we're staring. I think it wants us to stare, I said. Because the longer I watched, the clearer it became that the shadow wasn't simply an absence of light. It was distorting the space around it, warping the airless vacuum in a way my suit couldn't fully interpret. It was a silhouette of a thing from a physical logic I didn't understand. Then, a sound. Not external, not through the comms. Inside my skull. A low resonance vibrating like a memory dredged from the marrow of my spine. Malik covered his helmet with both hands. Do you hear that? Dear God, do you hear that? Rourke staggered. It's in my head, I can't. Voss grit her teeth. Stay focused. Do not let it override your cognition. But I could feel it trying. Not words, not images, meaning. Something reaching out, something probing, something curious. I fought to keep my thoughts in order, forcing myself to breathe slowly, evenly, rhythmically. The presence pressed harder, like fingers feeling the shape of my consciousness. Then, something shifted inside me. Recognition. Not of the creature's identity, but of its purpose. It's not here to hurt us, I said quietly. Rourke wheeled toward me. Oh, that's rich. Look at it, Hayes. That thing is built to hunt. No, I insisted. It's watching to see if we're compatible. Compatible with what? Voss demanded. Before I could answer, the shadow stepped forward. And the chamber reacted. The walls lit with bright, rippling lines radiating outward from the opening like veins pulsing with blue fire. The floor solidified beneath us. The vibrations that had been shaking my bones stilled suddenly, replaced by a low, steady thrum. The artifact had stabilized, activated. The shadow emerged fully into the light. My stomach dropped. It was tall, at least 3 meters, lithe, almost skeletal. Its limbs were elongated, jointed in ways that defied biomechanics. The surface of its body wasn't skin. It was some kind of flexible metallic membrane, shifting subtly like liquid metal, cooling and reheating in waves. Where a head should be, there was only an oval plane, smooth, reflective, and shifting like obsidian water. No face, no eyes, but it saw us, felt us. I knew it without understanding how. Malik collapsed to his knees. I can't look at it, Rourke unlatched a tether spike from his belt. "Commander, permission to—" "No!" Voss barked, grabbing his arm. "We do not provoke it." The creature stopped 5 meters from us. Its reflective oval tilted slightly. Then another pulse, this one sharper, struck my mind like a needle of cold lightning. Not pain, meaning, a message. "We remember you." I staggered. "It knows us." Voss turned sharply. "Explain." "I think—" My throat tightened. "I think it recognizes the species that came from the planet it engineered." Rourke swore under his breath. "So this thing built humans?" "Not built," I said weakly. "Prepared for, predicted, maybe shepherded." Malik lifted his helmet, dazed. "The architects, they seeded life." Another pulse hit us. Stronger, clearer. "You were foretold. You were shaped. You were the return." Voss stiffened. "The return? Of what?" The creature didn't move, but I felt its response. Of us. A chill rippled down my spine. The vision wasn't history, it was instruction. Malik whispered, "Then what are we supposed to do?" Before anyone could answer, the creature moved its arm, if that's what it was, and gestured toward the tunnel behind it. The interior lit up, showing a descending passage spiraling deeper into the artifact's core. "Commander," Rourke said, stepping in front of Voss protectively, "we're not going down there." "We might not have a choice," she said. And she was right. The artifact had opened itself. Not randomly, not accidentally, deliberately, like a door unlocking at the exact moment the intended recipients arrived. I felt another pulse, this one directed at me, alone. A single message imprinted into my thoughts like a brand. "You carry the memory, only you may enter." My breath caught. "Commander," I murmured. "I think it wants me." "The hell it does," Rourke snarled. "No one goes alone." But before Voss could issue a command, the passage behind the creature brightened and the floor beneath our boots shifted, rearranging itself. A walkway formed, leading directly toward the tunnel. Voss clenched her fists. "Hayes, look at me." I tore my eyes from the creature and met hers. "You do not take another step unless I order it. Understood?" I nodded, though something inside me, something deeper than thought, was pulling me forward. Malik's voice cracked. "Commander, it selected him. It imprinted him. If it wanted to harm us, it would have." "That doesn't mean following it won't kill him," Voss replied. Rourke raised his tether spike. "We're leaving. We back out now, regroup at the capsule, and call for extraction." But extraction was fantasy. No one was coming. No one even knew we were here, except the few people who sent us. And something else had awakened. Something older. Something that had been waiting 4.5 billion years for someone to open this door. "I have to go," I said quietly. "Hayes," Voss warned. "It showed me the collision," I continued. "It didn't just pick me at random. It prepared me." Prepared. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Rourke lunged forward to grab my arm. The creature moved. Not fast. Instant. It placed itself between us. One moment 10 meters away, the next directly in front of Rourke, towering over him. The soldier froze, breath hitching, spike trembling in his grip. The creature's reflective faceplate angled toward him. A pulse. "Do not interfere." Rourke staggered back, nearly tripping. Voss cursed. "Hayes, if you go in there—" I swallowed. "I know." I stepped forward, toward the creature, toward the tunnel, toward whatever future the artifact had carved for me long before Earth cooled. As I approached, the creature stepped aside, clearing the path. Just before I crossed the threshold, it pulsed one final message into my skull. "The architects ascend. The cradle must awaken, and you will show the way." My blood went cold. I crossed into the darkness, and the entrance sealed behind me. When the entrance sealed behind me, The darkness didn't just fall, it settled, like the closing of an ancient tomb. My helmet lights clicked on automatically, casting pale beams across walls that seemed to absorb more light than they reflected. The space was narrow at first, just wide enough for a single suited figure, but it descended sharply, spiraling downward in a slope too smooth to be natural. The moment the outer chamber vanished, the hum changed. It shifted from a background vibration to something more intimate, something almost biological, a pulse rhythm, slow, steady, like a heartbeat echoing through the walls. I felt it through my boots, through my gloves, through my ribs. "Commander?" I whispered instinctively, though I knew the channel was dead. The wall had sealed us off, physically and communicatively. My suit displayed a comm interruption symbol I'd never seen before, not static, not jamming, more like refusal. The artifact wasn't blocking my signal. It was ignoring it. I kept descending until the tunnel widened into a low cavern filled with a soft blue glow. The light didn't come from any fixture. It seeped through the walls themselves, like luminescent veins. The air, well, not air, the vacuum around me, felt charged. At the center of the chamber lay a platform, circular, smooth, perfect. I took a hesitant step forward, and the platform lit beneath my boot with a gentle ripple that radiated outward. Recognition. The hum deepened. My visor flickered. The walls brightened gradually, revealing symbols etched into the metal, spiral patterns, intersecting arcs, repeating fractal geometries, language, or memory. "This is insane," I whispered. "I'm talking to myself in a dead machine built before Earth existed." Except it wasn't dead. The platform rose, slowly, like an offering. I stepped onto it only because the alternative was to be crushed against the walls. The slope behind me had already sealed over, smooth as untouched stone. As soon as both my feet settled, the platform descended, straight down, through the floor, as if gravity had been redefined. My stomach lurched. My vision blurred. The suit compensated with stabilizers, but the system readings jittered, confused. Then the descent stopped, and the world opened. A vast chamber stretched before me, so large my helmet lights couldn't reach the far walls. Blue luminescence seeped from everything. The floor, the ceiling, the pillars rising from the ground like metallic trees. And in the center was a structure, a spire, massive, twisted like braided metal and bone. It reached from the floor to a point so high above me that I couldn't see its peak. A low, resonant tone rumbled through the chamber. The same voice as before, meaning, not sound. "You have come to the cradle." My heart hammered. Why me? Because you remember. Because you witnessed. Because you carry the echo. The echo of Thea. Of the collision? Of our design. I took an unsteady step toward the spire. You engineered that collision. Why? What was the purpose? The light in the chamber dimmed, then brightened slowly, like breath. Creation, destruction, balance. Worlds are shaped by impact. But life requires intention. I felt cold down to the marrow. You created life on Earth. We provoked the conditions, seeded the potential, shaped the cycle. But life grows wild, unpredictable. You rose sooner than expected. You learned to look upward too quickly. There was something accusatory in the tone. I swallowed. And now? Why awaken now? The chamber pulsed with a slow, heavy vibration. Because the architects return. My blood ran cold. Return? They're coming back? They never left. They ascended. Beyond your spectrum. Beyond your time. But they will descend again when the cradle awakens. And you want me to... what? Activate something? Prepare something? The air vibrated with a response. You are the bridge. The words settled like gravity, inescapable. What does that mean? I'm human. I'm not... Human is enough. Human is the product. You carry the pattern we seeded, the imprint we foresaw. A wave of dizziness struck me. My knees buckled. I steadied myself against the floor, but it rippled under my palm like thick fluid. You're saying, I gasped, my species, my existence, was planned. A pause. Cold, heavy. All sapience is planned. All emergence is guided. Evolution is the path. We are the architects of the path. The truth hit me harder than any pulse of energy. We weren't alone. We'd never been alone. Humanity wasn't an accident. We were a byproduct of someone else's design, someone unimaginably old. But why me specifically? I whispered. The light focused on my chest, on my helmet, on my eyes. Because you looked back, you saw, you remembered, you recognized the pattern. The vision of the Theia impact, the sphere, the beam, flashed before me again. My mind throbbed. I didn't choose that, I said. You forced it on me. We revealed what was already within you. I staggered backward. I don't understand. The chamber shook, slowly, rhythmically. Columns lit up one by one, circling the spire. You will. The echo must awaken. The architects must return. The cradle must open. No, I whispered. No, you don't understand. Humanity isn't ready for contact, certainly not with beings that can survive planetary formation events. Contact is inevitable. Preparation is essential. And you are the first. My heart pounded against the inside of my suit. First of what? The spire shifted. Segments rotated. Rings aligned. Blue energy crackled across its surface. At its base, something unfolded. A chair, or a cradle, or a throne. Large enough for a human. Designed for one. Absolutely not, I said, taking a step back. I'm not sitting in that. It is not a request. The chamber darkened. The hum intensified. The very airless void around me vibrated. My suit began pulling me forward, not from external force, but from internal systems malfunctioning. Magnetic locks on my boots clicked. My joints stiffened. The suit was no longer obeying me. No, stop, stop, I shouted, but the artifact wasn't stopping. The echo awakens. You will complete the link. I slid across the floor toward the cradle, my boots scraping against the rippling metal. My gloves tried to grip the ground, but the surface flowed like liquid around my fingers. No, please, don't. The cradle opened fully, glowing with soft, inviting blue light. A perfect fit. A perfect trap. Sit. Complete the cycle. Restore the connection. The architects ascend. I hit the base of the cradle. My suit buckled. The artifact tightened around me, held me, pressed me into place. I screamed, and the cradle closed. Darkness swallowed everything except the faint pulse of blue light bleeding through the inner surface, light that seemed to move in response to my heartbeat. My arms were pinned, my legs immobilized. Only my breathing remained free, and even that felt regulated, as if the cradle were matching its rhythms to mine. I tried to struggle, but my suit refused. My movements were interpreted as compliance rather than resistance. A physical barrier would have been terrifying enough, but knowing the artifact controlled my own equipment, that broke something inside me. Release me! I yelled, though there was no comm channel left to carry the sound. The cradle answered with a soft vibration that crawled along my back and up the base of my skull, settling into a precise point behind my eyes. The point warmed, then it opened. Not a physical sensation, mental, a widening, an expansion, like a door inside my mind had unlatched without my consent. The echo awakens. No, stop, please. Fear is unnecessary. Fear is human. You will transcend. The cradle's interior brightened until the rippling blue swallowed my vision, pulling me into a vast mental space far larger than the artifact's physical structure. I felt weightless, unanchored. as though my consciousness had been lifted from my body and suspended like a thread in an impossible void. Then the visions came. Not like the molten earth I'd seen earlier. These were sharper, faster, cascading like a torrent of information. The universe unfolded in front of me, nebulae blooming, stars igniting, planets forming like beads of molten glass. Voices or thoughts or patterns echoed between the images. Not human, not alien in a conventional sense, more like logic given sentience. You are the bridge. Through you, the signal restores. Through you, the cradle awakens. No, I whispered, though my physical mouth didn't move. You don't understand. Humanity can't handle contact. We barely handle ourselves. This is irrelevant. The cycle must proceed. What cycle? The question triggered the next vision. I saw the architects, not directly, not their bodies, not their faces. Their forms were hidden behind layers of concept, shapes that folded in and out of dimensions my brain wasn't built to comprehend. But I saw what they were capable of. Entire solar systems being sculpted like clay, stars being nudged into new life cycles, planets seeded with structures just like the sphere beneath me, civilizations guided, civilizations ended. We craft the path, we sow the potential, we judge the results. A cold dread tightened in my chest. You're coming back to judge us, I said, to evaluate humanity. Evaluation is already complete. My heart skipped. What? Your species has reached the threshold. Awareness, industry, signal. Once a species looks beyond its cradle, contact becomes inevitable. No, I said. Listen to me. Humanity isn't ready. We're divided, violent, fragile. This is expected. All sapient species fracture before convergence. Those who achieve unity survive the shift. Those who do not fade. The implication hit harder than any planetary collision. This is a test, I breathed. A cosmic filter. All life must be measured. All paths must be chosen. You will help choose. Me? I'm just a geologist. I'm not a leader. I'm not... You witnessed the origin. Your mind accepted the echo. You were chosen the moment you looked upward. The chamber around me pulsed. The visions intensified. I saw Earth, modern Earth, floating in space like a fragile blue seed. Cities glittered across its surface. Satellites ringed it like dust motes. Signals rippled outward, carrying billions of voices. And something else, a second signal, faint, subtle, hidden in the noise of humanity's collective technological chatter, but growing. I recognized it instantly, the artifact, its activation, its pulse, my pulse. I struggled against the cradle with everything I had, but the artifact tightened its grip, pinning me more firmly. Stop, I begged. Stop this. Don't use me. We do not use, we complete. The echo strengthens the signal. The signal calls the architects. Pieces clicked into place. The artifact wasn't just a recorder, not just a witness, not just a machine memory. It was a beacon, and I was the amplifier. You're broadcasting through me, correct. Your neural structure carries the imprint. Your species will hear the call. They will converge, or they will fall. My stomach dropped. They'll panic. They'll fight. They'll tear each other apart. This is expected. Convergence requires struggle. Survival requires unity. You can't force evolution. We can. We have. We will. The light flared. A wave of energy surged from the spire, through the cradle, into me, then outward. I felt it radiating across the moon, across the void, toward Earth. A quiet, subtle frequency no human ear could perceive, but every mind could sense. Fear, curiosity, dreams, nightmares, premonitions, a million subconscious signals blooming like infection. Please, I whispered, you'll break us. Only the weak strands will break. The strong will endure. The species will ascend. Another surge, stronger, rushed through me. My vision blurred with streaks of brilliant blue, and then voices, billions of human voices, not words, fears, whispers, impressions, neurons trembling across a planet suddenly aware of something vast and ancient pressing against their collective subconscious. The artifact was pushing its signal through me into them. I felt their terror, their confusion, their awe, their nightmares blooming instantly into existence. "No! Stop! Stop!" I choked. "You're going to drive them mad." Madness is transition. Understanding emerges from collapse. The species will be reforged. "No!" I screamed. "Humans are not a forge." The chamber trembled. Light erupted. My heart felt like it was being lifted out of my chest. Then, a new presence, not the artifact, not the architects, someone familiar. "Hayes? Hayes, can you hear me?" Voss. Her voice cut through the ether like a knife, slicing the connection for a fraction of a heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, I saw the possibility of escape. The cradle stuttered. The artifact faltered. The signal dimmed. I shoved everything I had, every fragment of identity, every piece of memory, every stubborn human refusal, into breaking the connection. "Let me go!" A crack split the chamber. The blue light inverted into darkness. The cradle spasmed open. I fell forward, slamming onto the cold metallic floor, gasping, suit alarms screaming in my ears. The chamber lights flickered, the spire dimmed, and the artifact whispered one final sentence before the world collapsed around me. "You cannot stop the return. You can only choose how your species meets it." Then everything went black. Consciousness returned like a tide pulling back from a dead shore. Slow, heavy, dragging pieces of me with it. At first, I felt nothing. No weight, no sensation. Just the dull awareness that I existed, drifting somewhere between memory and oblivion. Then sound filtered in. Not real sound, vibrations carried by my suit's contact sensors. Urgent ones. "Mason! Mason, answer me!" Voss. Her voice pierced the fog like a distress flare cutting through smoke. I blinked hard. The darkness fractured into dim blue lines running across the chamber. My visor rebooted again, HUD flickering to life. Warnings flashed red. Neural overload, oxygen spike, cardiac irregularities. My suit was fighting to stabilize me. "Mason, talk to me!" I'm here," I managed, my voice rasping. I pushed myself onto my elbows. The cradle lay open behind me, its metallic petals retracted, its inner surface dark, drained. Whatever it had poured into me, whatever it had taken from me, had left it dormant again. For the moment, Rourke's voice cut in, rough with panic. "He's alive. Thank God. Hayes, if you can move, get your ass over here now." I turned. The tunnel I'd entered through, once sealed, stood open again, its edges glowing faintly. Beyond it, I saw Voss and Rourke silhouetted against the chamber's scattered light. Malik stood between them, trembling visibly, as though the walls themselves had frightened the strength out of him. How did you get in?" I croaked. "We forced a reactivation," Voss said. "The moment your vitals flatlined, the artifact opened a path. I don't think it wanted you dead." "Great," Rourke muttered. "It wants him alive. That's somehow worse." My muscles shook violently, but I pushed myself upright. Each movement sent arcs of pain through my limbs. The cradle had used my neural pathways like a transmission cable. My skull still pulsed with residual echoes, faint whispering patterns that weren't entirely human. I stepped forward. The artifact reacted. The chamber brightened. The spire in the center, once dimmed, shivered with renewed light. The entire structure hummed, shifting from dormant to active in seconds. Malik stumbled back. "It's responding to him again." "No," I said. "It's responding to the signal." "What signal?" Voss demanded. "The one it forced through me," I whispered. As I spoke, I felt it. like a faint pressure behind my eyes. A sensation stretching far beyond the artifact, beyond the moon, out across the void between worlds. A transmission still flowing, still broadcasting, still calling. "The architects are coming," I said. Silence. True silence. Not the artifact's silence. Not the moon's vacuum. Human silence. Fear so complete it punched the breath out of all three of them. "What do you mean, coming?" Malik whispered. "They're returning," I said. "They were waiting for a signal. For the cradle to awaken, for humanity to cross the threshold." "And you triggered it," Rourke said, voice low, shaking with controlled rage. "No," I corrected. "It triggered me." The spire flared. A ring of blue light burst outward, racing across the chamber's walls like a shockwave. The floor trembled. "Hayes," Voss said tightly, "tell me exactly what's happening, right now." I forced the words out. "The artifact is part of a network, a beacon, a node. When I sat in the cradle, it used my neural patterns to amplify a signal aimed at deep space." "How deep?" Rourke asked. I swallowed. "Far." Malik clutched his helmet. "How long until they arrive?" I shook my head. "Could be centuries." Rourke exhaled in relief. "Or hours," I said softly. The relief vanished. Another pulse rolled through the chamber, so strong it nearly knocked me off my feet. The spire crackled with arcs of blue electricity that climbed toward the ceiling like inverted lightning. "We need to get out of here," Rourke barked. "Now." "We can't," I said. "Not until—" Voss grabbed my shoulder. "Not until what, Mason?" I met her eyes through the visor. "Not until we stop the transmission." Malik stared at me. "How? The artifact is using you as a conduit." That word again. Conduit, bridge, return. "I think I can disconnect," I said. "But I need to get back into the cradle." "What?" Rourke snapped. "Absolutely not." "Mason," Voss warned, "you almost died." "I know," I said. "But if I don't do this, whatever's coming, whatever the architects are, will follow the signal straight to Earth." The floor shook again. Dust, ancient dust older than the continents, fell from the ceiling in glittering cascades. Malik whimpered. "We're running out of time." Voss hesitated. Then she exhaled. "Do it." "Commander!" Rourke shouted. "That's an order!" Voss snapped. Rourke's jaw clenched so hard I heard his teeth click. But he stepped aside. I turned back toward the cradle. Its petals were open. Invitation or trap. I wasn't sure anymore, but my mind still throbbed with the connection the artifact had forced into me. The link was still there. Pulsing. Spreading. I climbed in. The petals closed. The darkness returned, but this time I leaned into it rather than fought it. "Show me the connection," I whispered. The artifact obliged. The chamber dissolved into a field of starlight, thousands of points, each one connected by luminous lines. A cosmic web, a network spanning distances beyond comprehension. And at the far end of one of those lines, a flicker, faint, growing, approaching, the architects. I felt the signal pouring through me toward them, a beacon bright enough to blind civilizations. "I have to break the link," I said. "I have to sever the signal. Severance is forbidden. The cycle must proceed. Not this time." I reached for the connection, not physically, but mentally, pushing through the tunnel of light binding me to the spire. The pressure mounted instantly. Pain stabbed behind my eyes. My chest tightened. The artifact pushed back. "You are the bridge. You cannot break what you were made to complete." "I wasn't made," I growled. "I evolved, and evolution includes choice." The network trembled. The light dimmed. Pain shot through me. White-hot, electric, overwhelming. My pulse spiked. Warning signals filled my visor. Still I pushed. "Hayes!" Voss's voice crackled faintly. my suit reconnecting through the weakening interference. "Mason, hold on!" I screamed. The network flared and snapped. The light tore away from me like a thread pulled from flesh. The signal shattered into fragments, collapsing inward toward the artifact. The spire shrieked with energy, lights bursting, circuits cascading in brilliant arcs. Then, silence. The cradle opened. I fell forward into Voss's arms. "Mason! Mason! Stay with me!" she shouted. The chamber's lights were dim now, flickering weakly. The artifact trembled, wounded but not dead. Rourke dragged me toward the tunnel. Malik followed, sobbing with relief. Alarms howled through the structure, deep, resonant tones like the groaning of a dying star. "We need to move!" Rourke yelled. We ran. The tunnel sealed behind us just as we passed through, metal slamming shut with a thunderous echo. The chamber outside shook, dust rising in clouds. "Capsule is 100 meters, Voss said. Go, go, go." My legs barely worked, my vision swam, but I kept running, kept breathing, kept forcing the last shreds of strength out of my failing body. We reached the capsule as the crater floor rippled behind us like water struck by a stone. Rourke shoved me into the airlock. Malik followed. Voss sealed the hatch and hit depressurization. The ground shook violently. The artifact was collapsing, or transforming, or preparing for whatever came next. We strapped in. Voss hit emergency ascent. Engines ignited. The capsule lifted off the lunar surface as the crater below erupted in blue fire, arcs of energy spiraling upward, reaching for us like the fingers of some ancient god. We escaped. Barely. Weightlessness took hold. The moon shrank beneath us. Voss whispered, "What did you do?" I stared out the window at the glowing wound we left behind. "I severed the signal," I said. Rourke exhaled shakily. "So the architects aren't coming?" I closed my eyes. "No," I whispered. "They're still coming." Malik choked. "Then what did we accomplish?" I opened my eyes again, staring at the distant stars. "I bought us time." "How much?" Voss asked. I shook my head. "No idea." We drifted in silence. Earth hung ahead, blue, fragile, unaware of what was approaching across the dark. "But we'll be ready," I said. I didn't believe the words, but I said them anyway, because humanity needed more than time. It needed a warning, and I was the first person in history who knew what was coming. The architects, the creators, the destroyers, the return. The moon fell away behind us like an old, waking god. And Earth waited.